Okay, guys, so today we're going to start with the civil rights movement. Again, we go back to where the civil rights movement began, and we're going way back to the end of the Civil War, where discrimination was created against blacks in the South, right? With the passing of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which gave slaves equality, you're going to have that discrimination against them begin, and again, especially in the South. You had the creation of Jim Crow laws, which actually kept blacks from being equal. The progressive era presidents, they tried to create laws that were going to help African Americans with the voting process. We saw that with the 15th Amendment. The Great Migration, right? The movement of blacks from the South to the North, and they're taking their culture. That's what we saw in the Roaring Twenties. In the Truman years, 1945 to 1953, Truman was president throughout those years. Jackie Robinson became the first African American to play pro baseball, so we see that for the first time. And of course, there's going to be the desegregation of the military in 1948. So World War II is going to be the last war that we actually had a segregated army. And again, the word segregated means to separate, so it's a separated army. When you desegregate something, you are bringing it together, right? Now, Brown versus the Board of Education is an important court case for you to know. We're going to go ahead and start with Plessy versus Ferguson. Back in the late 1800s, 1894, 96, Plessy versus Ferguson was a court case that decided that separate but equal was allowed. It was constitutional, which means that it was the law for you to have separate but equal, for the United States to be able to have separate but equal facilities. We know for sure they were separate, but were they equal? No, they weren't. So Plessy versus Ferguson is going to establish segregation basically in the South. Now, with Brown versus the Board of Education, you're going to have a court case where a little girl, an 8-year-old girl, wanted to go to a school, a couple blocks from her house, but it was an all-white school, and she was denied access. So she was sent to a school 5 miles away from her home. So she took it to the courts, of course, and that one's known as Brown versus the Board of Education. Basically, this is going to overturn separate but equal, which means that segregation, the separation of the races, is not going to be equal, at least in schools. Okay, so we are going to be doing a court case, or we have done the court case activity in class, where you're going to know the origins, the arguments, the ruling, the reasoning, and the historical impact. Now, the Brown decision, it says Thurgood Marshall argued the case for the NAACP, remember, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Later becomes the first African American Supreme Court Justice. So Thurgood Marshall is going to be the lawyer for Linda Brown in that court case. Earl Warren, he wrote the unanimous decision, which means that everybody was for the decision, okay? And we'll be going over the decision in class. It says the court decided that desegregation should be conducted with all deliberate speed. Many were able to delay integration. With all deliberate speed, meaning integration had to happen, but at your own pace. So you're going to see a lot of schools in the South not integrate right away. Others will, but most of them won't, and we're going to see how this becomes a problem when they finally do integrate a couple years after the Brown decision. Okay? If you have any questions, you let me know.